Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
What were you going to say?
Well, it kind of moves sometimes. It almost shifts as if, it's as if someone were trying to turn over and get comfortable in bed.
How often does that happen?
Well, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. Well, is it something important?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of the Civil Gore podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we appreciate everybody that listened to episode 1.
Yes, and we definitely appreciate that you've come back for episode 2.
Yeah, so Brian, have you seen any good movies lately?
Just pretty much the one. I had a busy week, so pretty much the one I watched was the one that we were going to talk about today's show. Other than I did happen to see Halloween 3 and on cable, just because I guess based on talking about it, I'm like, okay, this is on, I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah, it's always a good one to watch, which while they're showing it in February is kind of odd.
Yeah, they actually had some sort of little mini marathon on, I believe it was Stars the other night. They had Halloween 2, then Halloween 3, then they skipped to H2O, and then they went back to 2 again, apparently.
Nice. I watched a fun little movie called, and by fun I mean boring. So it's a movie called Psychomania. It's also known as The Death Wheelers. And I actually watched it in anticipation of covering it for our Blu-ray releases. Kind of got my dates mixed up. So anyway, this Blu-ray came out on the 21st. So we didn't really cover that. But this is an interesting movie. It's a British biker film. And it's about a motorcycle gang who call themselves the Living Dead. And the leader of this gang practices black magic of some sort. And he figures out how to come back from the dead by killing himself and believing that he can come back. Kind of a deal with the devil type thing. So he convinces his followers to basically commit suicide and come back as this immortal motorcycle gang. And it's kind of funny because by motorcycle gang standards, these guys are pretty tame. They're probably their biggest act of crime is like running over a grocery cart or causing a guy to spill a bowl of oranges or something. They just kind of run around town. They wear these big goofy skeleton visor mask things, which their logo is actually pretty cool. But
yeah, I have this image of when you said that of that biker gang in those Clint Eastwood movies. The Any Which Way You Can and Every Which Way But Loose. The one that he's already tormenting that like slapstick gang of
it's kind of like that. I mean, it's like they run by and they like scare babies and stuff. It's pretty funny. But anyway, these guys basically I guess they're zombies, but they're not really decomposed in any way. So they just come back and look like regular people, and they interact with people normally. So there's no real horror to this movie at all. It's just other than if you're scared of the idea of someone coming back from the dead, I guess.
So it's one of those thinking horror movies, I guess.
Yeah, I'd hesitate to go that far, but oh man, it's really plotting. I mean, it does have a little bit of a goofy charm, I guess, because I still keep thinking about it after I've watched it and kind of going back to it. But I think it would have been much better as a short, like in an anthology or maybe like an episode of a Twilight Zone type horror show. Because it just doesn't work. Even at a spry 85 minutes, it drags quite a bit. But it's still got that kind of charming 70s British feel to it, so I have to give it that.
Maybe we'll have to have our good friend Matt watch that and see what he thinks.
Yeah, I'd love to get Matt's opinion on it, but I also hate to subject him to 85 minutes of that as well, so Anyway, so that's not one I'm picking up for my Blu-ray collection. I saw that one on Shudder. So,
thank God.
by
for
the
Shudder.
way, by the way, can we sing the praises of Shudder? And they're not paying us, by the way.
No, definitely not. In
This
fact, we're
is
paying them.
Yeah, exactly. This is free advertising, but I absolutely love Shudder. Shudder is for those who don't know, is a Netflix-style streaming service just for horror movies. And they have a pretty big selection of, I would say they cater mostly to older films, but they have so many great films and not so great films from the 70s and 80s, 60s, and even some more modern ones, a lot of foreign films. So if you're a horror fan, definitely check those guys out. Their website is not, they're not as sophisticated as Netflix in terms of their player and their search engine and all that kind of stuff. So we've all been a little bit spoiled by Netflix. But in terms of selection and finding really cool movies to go back and watch, they're awesome. Yeah,
no, it's great. I love it because I'll watch it sometimes during work. I'll pop on my iPad and watch it, and it actually is at least as functional where you can if you have an Apple TV, you can flip it up on there, which is what I watched our main topic movie tonight, which we'll get into. I watched that. I put it on my iPad on the app and just flipped it up onto the screen, so works perfect. So it's really good with for getting a good source of horror movies on there.
Yep. So check those guys out. They're really cool. Are we ready for our first chop?
I think so.
All right. So I've got a list of Blu-rays that are coming out on February 28th. And this is actually a pretty good week, Brian. We have 2 really good collector series Blu-rays and then 2 probably really bad 70s features.
Yeah, and anyone, if you don't know already, Tim and I, we're suckers for the collector's series of horror movies.
Yeah. Scream Factory is my absolute favorite Blu-ray company, but there's some other good collector companies out there that make collectors and special editions. So the first one I wanted to cover was The Gate from 1987. That's coming out from Lionsgate's Vestron Collectors series.
Oh, I definitely have to pick that one up. I like that movie.
Yeah, that's a cool movie, and honestly, I don't think I've seen this since the VHS days, so I need to definitely pick it up again because I remember really liking it, even as a youngster.
Yeah, and they had a sequel to that, didn't they? Didn't they come out with a sequel to that, I think? I kind of remember seeing it in the theater, but it was like years after the original. I could be wrong, though. I could be mixing it up. But I'm
seeing a Gate 2 Trespassers from 1990.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so there was a sequel to that one.
And I think one of the main actors was in it, if I can remember. But like you said, I don't think I've seen the original. Probably since the old VHS days, and I'm pretty sure HBO used to play the hell out of that thing.
Yeah, and that's probably where I saw it because I would have been in my early teens at the time. But the special features on this one look pretty good. They have 2 audio commentaries. One with the director, writer, special effects designer, and supervisor, and the other with another special effects designer and supervisor, makeup effects artist, special effects artist, and photographer.
Oh, okay.
And they have 8 featurettes, and then the standard trailers and galleries and stuff like that. But that looks like a really cool one. It's an expensive one, too, though. It's about $40
Whoa.
For pre-order. So I may not be getting that one right away.
Yeah, I better see if my Amazon reward points are sitting there.
That's a little steep for me for Blu-rays. The other one that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm sure you are too as an anthology fan, is Dead Time Stories from 1986.
Wow, yeah, I barely remember that movie. I remember watching it. I'd probably get that over the gate actually, just because I want to see it again. So.
Yeah, I know I have seen this at some point, but again, it's one of those that's been so long ago, I don't remember much about it. But this one's coming out from Scream Factory, and it's got an all-new transfer, an audio commentary, an interview with co-writer and director Jeff Delman, some other interviews, and an alternate cut of the first story, The Black Forest, which sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so that's a Scream Factory. Their releases are always outstanding, so I'm sure I'll be picking that one up at some point. So the next one on our list, and anybody, you have to go out and look at this cover. This is for Ape 3D, and I don't know if the actual Blu-ray's in 3D. I guess it is.
Is that a real movie, or wasn't that the movie that Penny on The Big Bang Theory was in, or something?
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is actually a real movie, and it looks like a total King Kong ripoff. And this is from 1976, which is about the time that King Kong remake was made, so I'm sure this was a complete ripoff.
I can't even find it on IMDb, actually. I'm looking this thing up.
Yeah, well, it's Ape, and it's A*P*E.
Okay.
So
That's why.
But anyway, so it has a new 2K restoration. I don't know why.
Yeah, right.
An audio commentary and trailer, but the cover of this thing is a King Kong fighting a snake in one hand and a shark in the other, and he's sinking the Titanic.
He's a pretty impressive ape.
All at the same time, while this guy apparently is hanging from a helicopter, and there's a woman.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah, there's a woman like hanging from his head. I almost want to see it just from the cover alone. I mean, that's some nice marketing right there.
Yeah, that's right. I see him. Yeah, he's got his foot on the Titanic. He's got the woman in his hand. There's a helicopter over his head at one point, and then he's got one in his hand, his other hand. Apparently, he's terrorizing a city, and a shark's coming out of his back.
They're like, how many things can we have this gorilla fight? Put them all on the cover right now.
I'll tell you, though, if I could say anything about this film, the marketing is brilliant because this thing makes me want to watch it now.
Oh, absolutely. I would watch this in a heartbeat. I'm sure it's terrible, but anyway, moving right along. Speaking of terrible, 1981's Venom. And I couldn't find much about this movie other than let me just read the synopsis. A big black mamba snake that has gotten loose in a townhouse slithers through a kidnapping plot in this film. So it's literally a kidnapping thriller with an addition of a big black mamba snake.
Huh.
And he's not like overly big, because I just looked at the screenshot. He's just a regular snake.
And wait, what year was that?
1981.
Oh, okay, because there's also Venom in 2005, because I was looking it up on IMDb as you said that. And there's also a Venom 2018 with Todd McFarlane involved in it somehow, so I don't know if it's no, it's different. Oh, you know what? It says it's a rumored to have the psychopathic villain known as Carnage, and the name is supposedly going to be Venom Carnage. So I don't know if that's the Venom. Is that
Spider-Man Venom?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, we'll have to research that one a little bit. But yeah, because it's funny. I tried to look up that other Venom, that doesn't come up, but that did.
Yeah, no, this is the pre-Spider-Man, early '80s kidnapping Venom. So definitely check that out if you're curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I may be watching Ape 3D.
So in this Friday, actually today, is the theatrical release of Get Out, which is the directorial debut of Jordan Peele.
Oh,
who we don't know typically from horror. He's one of the comedy duo of Key and Peele, and I always like his work. And really interested to see where he goes with this one. It looks like I watched the trailer and has some really good Stepford Wives type vibe. I was reading that Jordan Peele actually used that as one of his inspirations for this movie. So you get a little bit of Stepford Wives, a little bit of maybe Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of tone from it. But it's a racial kind of a racial tension type horror movie, which I think is really interesting. And I was reading that Jordan's parents, I believe his mom is white and his dad is African American. So he's got a unique perspective on this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Yeah,
and it seems like this might be a new trend with comedy experts doing horror. We'll see how this goes, because as we mentioned the last show, Danny McBride is gonna be helming the new Halloween, and so we know him mostly from comedy. So this could be a new interesting twist. I'd like to see where this trend goes, actually.
Yeah, and they say comics are some of the most comedy comes from a dark place a lot of times. Look at Robin Williams.
Yeah.
So maybe they do have some some really good horror chops hidden behind all those laughs.
Yeah, well, so this could be interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to check that movie out, though. Look, I only saw the one trailer, and I recognize the actor from, he was in one of the episodes of Black Mirror on Netflix, which is another great show, guys, out there. If you haven't checked that out, it's kind of a Twilight Zone-y type of...
Yeah, it's like Twilight Zone for technology. Very, very modern. In fact, I would say not even modern, it's futuristic sci-fi, but not so far off of our own world that it's too far in the future. It's plausible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've only seen I saw the first season, and I am a little bit into the second season, and so far I haven't seen one I didn't like, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, I've watched all 3 seasons, and they're stellar.
Yeah, so there's another recommendation from Civil Gore, guys.
Yep. So we promised you the answer to a certain trivia question last episode.
Yes.
So, Brian, would you care to repeat that question and give our listeners the answer, please?
Yes. Okay, so the trivia question for last week that I asked was, who is the only actor or actress to appear in Halloween 1, 2, and 3? And now I remember I had told you it can't be, it's actually someone that visually played a role in there now. Because if you have a sharp ear, you can hear that Jamie Lee Curtis actually does a voiceover. She does the announcement of the curfew in the town that they go into. But so the answer is Nancy Kyes, and she played Annie Brackett, as you know, in Halloween's 1 and 2. I think 2 was in a flashback, and she played Linda Chalice in Halloween 3, who played basically Dr. Chalice was the main character. It was his. I guess technically it's his ex-wife, and she was in there for a few minutes. So she actually has an interesting little piece of trivia there that she was in Halloween 1, 2, and 3. She played obviously different roles, but I guess she must have been somehow related to, connected to John Carpenter to get all 3 of those.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so there's a little too, and technically you could. Some people may say, well, you know what? If you look, there's actually a sequence where they're on TV where you see Michael Myers walking down the steps, so you could technically say it's him, but that's, we're not looking for that.
I believe there was something in the commentary about her. Now that after I've thought about it, I believe there was something in the commentary explaining why she was in 3.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe one of those relationships she had with somebody that worked on the film, but I have to go back and look at that. Yeah,
and she was credited as Nancy Loomis, which makes it a little confusing. So if you looked up on IMDb, you may not have found it right away depending on how you searched it. So I tried to make it a little. Hopefully the trivia questions will be kind of on that level, just obscure enough to kind of challenge you a bit, but not ones that'll rack your brains for days and days, even though you'll know about a week's time anyway, the answer.
All right, so let's get right into our feature presentation.
Yes.
So I picked this one a little bit on a whim because I had heard some hype about it at one point, and I just happened to run across it on Shudder. Again, Shudder's great for those movies that you just happen to run across and go, oh yeah, I never saw that one. We are going to be covering the odd, I guess would be the appropriate word.
That's one of them.
That's one of the words we could call it. A movie called The Manitou from 1978.
Yeah, and it featured a decent cast for the time, I guess. You got Tony Curtis in there, Susan Strasberg, Stella Stevens, Ann Sothern. I only know her from the Ann Sothern show.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith.
Yes, that was that. I got to tell you, while I'm watching this opening credit scene, which seemed to go on for like 12 minutes, it was when I saw his name there, I got very excited. I have to say, because anything with Burgess Meredith is always going to be a plus.
Oh yeah, he's awesome, and he's always old.
Yeah,
in every movie, he's always been old.
Yeah, no matter what. I think even as a child actor, he was old. So yeah.
Well, he was born in 1908, so every movie he's ever been in, he's been old.
That's true, yeah. But you know what? He plays it so well. He's like, and if you notice, I'll actually get into it a little bit when we talk later. There's almost like 2 Burgess Meredith. There's that like really calm, philosophically Burgess Meredith, and then there's the Rocky Burgess Meredith, where he's grizzled and gruff, and he goes to both in this movie at one point. Actually, a little bit.
He really does. But this movie, I was thinking about how to describe this movie. It's like if you took the most crazy script you could come up with and crazy plot, and you gave it to like good actors that gave 110% to this silly movie. This is what you would get, because the performances are awesome.
Yeah, they really are.
Like, nobody phoned it in. Like, everybody was like, nope, I'm totally on board, 110%, you're getting everything I got. But they matched it with this movie that just defies description. So the only reason I could think of that this movie got made was that it was based on a novel by Graham Masterson, who was one of the big British horror authors of the time. And I used to read a lot of horror. I'm sure I've read one of his books at some point down the road. I can't remember exactly which one. But he was pretty huge. He was like, maybe not on the Stephen King level, but he was definitely a well-known horror author and still is to this day. And this novel, The Manitou, which produced this movie, was actually turned into a very successful series. I didn't realize this until today when I was researching it, but there are actually 6 novels in this series.
Really?
So if you can't get enough of The Manitou after what we tell you,
Yeah.
you got 5 more novels worth after it. So I'm actually curious enough about it. I kind of want to go read those.
Yeah, I might need to now, because after I purposely, when you suggested this is the movie we're gonna watch, I've never heard of it, what a Manitou is. So, and I did not want to find out until I saw the movie. So I figured, you know what, they're gonna explain it in the movie. So I purposely went in there not knowing what a Manitou was or anything about this movie at all, other than who was in it. Basically, I looked really quick to see who was in it, and that was it. So I went into it, and I definitely got my lesson in Manitouism, I guess.
Yeah, I thought it was like a manatee, like an undead manatee or something.
Yeah.
A manatee crossed with a caribou.
Yeah, like Sharknado or something, right?
Because it is a Canadian film, so you never know.
There you go, yeah.
So if you don't know, you find out the Manitou is a Native American term for life force.
Yes.
And we find out that everything has a life force.
Including computers.
Yeah, including computers and typewriters. Yeah. Exploding ones at that.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that's pretty ahead of its time. That's they're like already they have this technology that basically has its own AI in it already, I guess.
The beer pairing for this movie, I was trying to find a Canadian beer because this is a Canadian film, but I couldn't really find anything that matched very well. So I was running across and found an actual Manitou brewery based out of Colorado. I think it's a fairly small little brewery, but they have a cream ale, and it's called the Deception Dark Cream Ale. And the description is, at first glance, this dark ale looks like it will be full of rich roast flavors, yet it is deceptively light and crisp. And I thought that was perfect, because this movie is almost the inverse of that. At first glance, it looks deceptively light, but it's actually got some pretty good scenes in it.
Yes,
pretty good scares.
Yeah, and see, I'm wondering if you go to the brewery and each the brewing tanks have its own Manitou, and that makes the beer so good, you know.
Oh, exactly. The life force.
So we'll have to check that out. I might have some family in Colorado, so I think if we go to visit there, I may have to look where this is and put this on the trip itinerary.
Yeah, by all means. So before we get into the discussion of this film, just note that we're probably going to use the term Indian quite a lot because that's how it's referred to in the movie. Although we know the proper term is Native American, so we don't mean to offend anybody of Native American heritage. We're just going to use the term Indian just to flow with what we've seen and researched from the movie.
Yes, and there will be, obviously, spoilers in this when we talk about it, so if you haven't seen it yet and you want to, based on our little discussion so far, I guess stop the podcast, watch it, and then come back. But if not, hearing the description may actually make you want to watch it.
Yeah.
At least just to see it for yourself. So, okay, so I'm going to read this synopsis I tried to come up with being just brief enough to tell you what it's about, but detailed enough to kind of get you enthralled here. A woman named Karen Tandy one day finds an unusual and rapidly growing lump on the back of her neck. The doctors tell her there's nothing to worry about and that they will operate and remove it. What the doctors keep to themselves is that the x-rays taken show something that resembles a fetus. Karen, who is scared and suspicious that the doctors are keeping something from her, contacts an old flame, Harry Erskine, who makes a living as a shady tarot card reader.
Yes, so what is growing in this poor woman's back?
Yeah. Which I gotta tell you, I mean, not that the effects are anything brilliant, but when they first show the lump, that freaked me out because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac. So right off the bat, I'm freaking out that God knows what it is. Even if
they don't, there's not a long preamble as to, oh, yeah, I feel something slightly bumpy on my neck. No, she comes into the hospital and like, yeah, here it is, and there's like a freaking giant tumor on her back.
Yeah,
like from the start of the movie.
Yeah, right off the bat, it's like softball size coming out of her neck. They definitely don't waste time getting into the story in this.
Not at all. And before we go any further, there was one point I wanted to make, and that is, having read a lot of horror books as a youth, there's a lot of them that are just unfilmable because a lot of horror writing leaves a lot to the viewers or the reader's imagination. And some of the plot lines are just completely ridiculous, sort of like this one. So I can totally get this as a novel. Doesn't surprise me in the least. I read plenty of books that are this kind of far out. But you don't usually see movies made of them because they're so far out. And it's just fascinating to me that this one got made.
Yeah, especially as the movie progresses and different sequences happen, you're really wondering what they were thinking when they were reading this book. Like, how are we putting this on film?
So anyway, so let's kind of go through. So she goes to the doctor. She's like, there's a hilarious sequence. Like when this movie, there's one line of dialogue that I was like, I love this movie already. And I'm paraphrasing here because I haven't gone back and quoted it, but she shows the doctor this like softball sized lump on the back of her neck, and she mentions, sometimes I feel like it's moving, like it's trying to get more comfortable.
Oh, right.
And she goes, and he goes, he's like, oh, and she says, is that interesting? Like, should I be concerned about that my tumor is moving to get more comfortable? She says it so nonchalantly.
Yeah, yeah, because, that's the one thing that always made my biggest fear of getting a tumor is that it would try and make itself comfortable, back.
She seems remarkably unfazed for the fact that she has this thing growing on her back of her neck, I must say. Yeah,
and especially since it was, I think she says that it was only 3 days ago when it started, and it's that size already in 3 days.
Yeah, she just seems like, she acted like it was a paper cut or something.
Yeah, if that was me, I definitely forget about being calm, and I would probably need to be wheeled in because I'd have passed out by that point at the sight of that thing.
As we would say in the South, bless her heart.
Yeah,
she's doing. She's brave. She's putting on a brave face.
She is. So, and actually, funny you said that. There's a couple of other lines in there which I'll get to at one point too. Yeah, this movie definitely has a plethora of lines that are just hilarious. And not even so much in the context, just the delivery and like you said, that's not phoned in. So it's done with the emotion of some of the classic lines in movie history, which makes it so funny. But
yeah, so she has a friend. I guess they were an item at some point.
Yeah, they definitely imply that they were. I mean, I think she even says something. Oh, I missed you. I haven't seen you. Or,
Yeah, so we're first introduced to Tony Curtis's character, Harry Erskine.
Yeah, I think Erskine. Yeah.
And he is basically a tarot card charlatan, and we see him bilking this poor old lady out of her money. And he's got the fake mustache, and the lights are dimmed, and he's kind of doing his fake tarot card reading, trying to get his hands on her money. And we could tell from the start, this guy's he's a player.
Yeah,
he's a playboy. He's a fraudster, and so he becomes a really interesting character because Tony Curtis plays him so well.
Oh, he does. And he's got, I've seen, Tony Curtis in a bunch of different things that he's done. And, when he gets like over the top kind of rage kind of Tony Curtis, that cracks me up,
Yeah.
And it's full of that in this movie. Like actually, well, we'll get to the scene later, I guess, with his other customer, but there's a line he does in that, which I'll talk about, which just, I actually rewound it once because I was cracking up at it, but we'll get to that, I guess. But yeah, so you could definitely tell he's not really a good guy.
and that whole sequence really threw me off for this movie because the premise is already a little comical.
Right.
So then when you see this Tony Curtis sequence, it really is played for laughs. You can tell he's a shark. Even his neighbor comes out and she's like, oh, yeah, that line again or whatever. She's...
Yeah, and he implies that she's in the same kind of business or something, because he says, oh yeah, your lines too. I mean, what is this, an apartment complex for charlatans?
Yeah.
Like, where are they living,
But it's very light. It's very played lighthearted, and I kind of took this movie. I was like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of a little bit of a farce type. It's going to be horror, but it's more of a kind of a light horror type thing. And boy, was I wrong. There's some like genuinely scary moments.
Yeah, there's some of the moments that really, I got to tell you, creep me out. Somewhat from memories of other horror films, like we'll get to, I guess, which is so basically jumping ahead a little bit. So after she kind of tells him what the deal is. He assures her, because, oh, don't worry, they're going to take care of it tomorrow, you'll be fine. So just to, I guess, make her feel better, he does a tarot card reading, and I guess it comes up death twice. But he doesn't even believe in himself, so he just kind of like, guys, I did it wrong or something, and he shuffles it away. And then she goes off, and so I guess the next day he has... Oh, well, no, actually, I'm jumping ahead, sorry. In her, I guess, so they go to sleep, and in her sleep, she chants a line that I guess is, this version's like Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Yeah, I don't remember the line.
I actually wrote it down. It's
okay.
Pana Witchy Salatu.
Okay.
So, well, I like the fact that it's a witchy in there. You can't make this up, this movie. But yeah, so she says that in there, and even then he kind of just like blows it off because she doesn't remember it. And so he gets like an eccentric old woman, which is a classic scene. I don't know who this old woman is, but she cracked me up. Just the way she was like, he was trying to find her tarot card for her to be, and she kept just like shaking him off like a catcher and a pitcher kind of a thing. But so I guess all of a sudden she starts to quote these lines and starts to kind of almost have a panic attack or something and freezes. And the next thing you know, I guess she kind of gets up and goes floating down the hall, which...
Yes, this was super creepy.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Exorcist creepy and Salem's Lot kid floating in the window creepy. And I was like, wow, this kind of changed, like you said earlier, I was like, this changed from really like maybe possible like comedy horror to really like creepy horror.
Yeah, that was a great scene. And that was the first inkling I had that maybe there's some... Now I kind of get why this is a bit of a cult classic, because there are some really cool sequences in here.
Yeah, and I mean, and then she literally goes down, and in I have to say, which is a pretty well done stunt, she propels herself down the stairs, takes the whole stairwell with her.
Yeah,
and
some nice breakaway stairs there.
Yeah,
railings.
Yeah, I mean, it was and she just stumbles down the stairs. But the scene that cracks me up in there is when she's freaking out and he's trying to calm her down. He yells, he goes, all right, I'm going to call an ambulance. And then he goes, I'm dialing the operator. And then he just picks up the phone and goes, I want an ambulance. And he just yells it in. And I lost it. I had to rewind it because I don't even think he picked the phone up before it. It was just such a random scene, but it cracked me up because, like you said, it was so, he gave it his all.
Yeah, you've got to keep in mind when we're talking about these scenes, like the actors are giving 110%. They are not playing it for laughs. They are not phoning it in. They are giving their version of their Oscar caliber performance for this silly movie.
Yeah, like,
and that's what makes it so great.
Yeah, it is, and you could almost tell it's like every scene they're doing, envisioning in their head, this is going to be the little blur or the little reel that plays when they get nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Manitou. It's like,
I don't know what I mean. God bless them.
Yeah.
I'm giving a clap here for their dedication to the craft, because this movie could have been just complete train wreck without those performances, but they managed to save it. So anyway, Harry decides to enlist the help of some friends of his that are kind of in... Apparently this guy, even though he's a fraudster, he's also got some connections with some other people and kind of in the paranormal field.
Yeah, I guess that's his old... I guess they're both his old friends, but I think he was more friendly with the wife of the guy.
Yeah.
It looked like they were either connected or partners. They went to school together. They had some sort of history, I guess.
It looked like they sold nautical stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell what business they were in anymore, because I guess when she tries to help him, she's going to go to help him, she said, well, I was told I'm not supposed to do that anymore. I promised her husband, I guess, I'm not supposed to do this anymore. So I guess they went from seance reading or whatever, the occult, to selling nautical equipment. Yeah.
It looked like they had a store that sold theming for seafood restaurants.
Yeah, exactly. I think they need a backstory on that. Maybe the novelization of that. Does it go into them anymore?
I hope so, because I want to read it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to read it. Maybe if it's an expanded universe of Manitou, like, like they do the Star Wars. And can I just say, so when they go to do this, he convinces them to do the seance. What on earth was she chanting? It sounded like a mix of something like a Hebrew prayer and a Starbucks order. Because I heard Kona, Barista, then Tunarim, Amen. What was going on there?
It was they were ahead of their time.
Yeah, it really.
Well, they were in San Francisco. Don't forget.
That is true. Yeah, and it was so funny because, as you know, my wife Julie's from the Bay Area, so I got excited because once that obligatory San Francisco cable car scene, which establishes every movie that's in San Francisco, appears. I said, hey, look, it's San Francisco. And of course she's like, yeah, you didn't notice the Bay Bridge was in the shot before. So, she called me out on my my generic San Francisco knowledge, even though I lived there myself. But she, so yeah, it was in San Francisco.
I was excited because I've been there twice, and I was looking for something that I had seen there twice. Not that I've lived there, but
well, they go to the wharf at one point. They're heading down.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah, so there was some signature scene. The Golden Gate Bridge later on has the typical shot, which could be used in about 45 other movies.
Yeah. So anyway, they have this seance, and man, this was a great sequence.
Yeah, it was really well done. I think this is where the budget went, though, for this sequence.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because they start obviously chanting and all this kind of stuff, and they were lit with this like garish green light.
Yeah, because he turned green, and I thought that was part of it. I was like, oh, why is he turning green? But I realized then it was actually the whole kind of table had this green glow that was kind of cool.
It's like this Willy Wonka crazy, bright, crazy glow. It was really cool. And the table, which we've seen as established at the start, is just it's like a pitch black table with wood trim around the edges. And then all of a sudden, we see this figure rising up through the table like it's made out of liquid. Yeah,
it almost, I gotta tell you, they used it was very dark, that part of the scene. It was almost similar, like the earliest version of that morphing technology that Terminator 2 introduced. It kind of reminded me of that. Didn't it? Like when the head comes up, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, today they would do this with CGI with a couple of mouse clicks. But for them to, they had to have basically made a liquid pool to push this. It ends up being like an Indian spirit head or something, which we'll later find out looks like the Manitou, but it comes up out of this table. Obviously, they used some kind of practical statue and pushed it up through or made it rise out of a pool of black liquid or something. But it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think
for the time.
Yeah, and I think it possessed Ann Southern on the table or something. She got possessed. And then and then they cleared it away. It went back down, but then when they thought everything was safe, all of a sudden the window just comes exploding in, and they all go flying onto the. I didn't expect that actually. I was like, wow, that was a pretty good effect. And next thing you know, you get this explosion.
Yeah, I forgot. Like the entire window caves in, and it's like blowing like a hurricane. Yeah. And Tony Curtis is over there. He's getting blown all to hell. He's grabbing onto stuff. It was kind of intense.
Yeah, they at the time, it had to be a pretty large budget for some of the stuff they do.
It actually was. I was reading, let me pull it up. I was reading the budget on this thing. It was $3 million, which was William Girdler. He was the director and screenwriter. That was his biggest budgeted film.
Wow. Well, and they obviously ran out towards the end, which we'll get to. But
yeah. Not every effect is a winner here.
No.
So at this point, Harry knows that this ain't no joke anymore.
Right.
And
Yeah, and then I guess one of his friends. Then in the obligatory horror movie scene, there's a table scattered with books. They're trying to find out what this could be, and I guess he gets a quote from an archaeologist that wrote a book, I guess explaining a similar situation to them, which turns out to be Burgess Meredith that they go to.
Right, so Burgess Meredith in full Colonel Sanders uniform.
Yeah, that's right. What was he wearing? What was he wearing?
He looked just like Colonel Sanders. I kept expecting him to pull out a bucket of extra crispy. So he's an expert. Of course, he doesn't want anything to do with this, and blah 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 blah. But he puts on a great performance.
Yeah, well,
he was great.
Yeah, no, he started off in the typical Burgess. But I don't know if you've seen the famous Twilight Zone he did, where he was like that, which was one of my favorite episodes of all time. And he's got that intellectual, with the like, why, Helen, why do you do these things? He gets into it, and he's like, and he's questioning them, and he's going through this. I mean, it almost seemed like an ad-lib. It seemed so natural discussion the way he was. And he was going into this whole thing, and what I got to tell you, one of my favorite lines he does, he's really intellectual in this, and he's coming off as, I guess, first he questions them why they came to him because he's an archaeologist. He doesn't even remember he wrote or quoted this book or whatever. But, and then so it cracks me up. He kind of gives him a hard time, and he goes, well, let's go to the attic. But I'm really not there that often. And he goes up, and it's in full work mode, like someone's been working there for years. The light's on, so that cracked me up right off the bat, because it looks like someone was been in there for about like 12 days straight on a study binge, right. And so I guess he realizes all of a sudden, like the light bulb goes off. No pun intended there with the light bulb reference before, but. He knows what that translation meant, which was the Pana Witchy Salitu, I guess, or Salitu. He realizes that transforms to my death foretells my return, which kind of explains the whole factor with the Manitou, which I guess I might have skipped ahead a little bit. They discover that it's trying to return, obviously, through Karen's body at that point. And right. So after they have this discussion and they figure it out, they say, okay, how do we stop him? And he's like, why would you want to fight him? And he starts getting a little agitated. I swear to God, I expected the next thing to be, you're going to eat lightning and crap thunder, rock. It's like, he goes from this mild-mannered little Colonel Sanders guy to like Mickey Burgess Meredith in about 2 seconds after that. But I guess he alludes to the fact that he needs the only other way to fight this thing is with another Indian medicine man.
Right, and I think we may have skipped over this part because it may have happened a little bit earlier in the film. There's a sequence where they're about to operate on this tumor.
Oh, right, we did kind of skip that.
Yes, and she, all of a sudden, her eyes open, and the doctors are like, what? Did we not use enough anesthesia? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, one of the surgeons starts cutting his own hand or wrist with the scalpel.
Yeah, that guy has a bad run in this movie.
Yeah, so obviously this tumor or whatever is in this thing is able to control and influence people from the outside, which heightens the tension there.
Yeah, so if you've been following along, this tumor makes itself comfortable and controls people.
Exactly. That's not the weirdest part of it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that relative that comes over and never leaves, It's like, makes himself comfortable, doesn't care what anyone else does, going to make you change all your plans because he wants to go here or they want to go there.
So Harry decides to seek out the help of a real Indian medicine man.
Which, tell me, does not have the coolest name ever. John Singing Rock?
Yes.
Gotta love that.
Rock. And, of course, this guy was not a real Native American. He was born in Syria.
Hey, he's in a lot of stuff, actually, up until he passed away, actually, I saw. He was in he did some video game voices. I was looking him up.
Yeah. So he's back then they didn't cast Native American actors. but he played a lot of Native Americans.
Yeah, I know. I saw that, and he was in another movie. He was a good actor. I liked him actually in this.
Yeah, he was really good. So anyway, Harry goes to seek this guy out, and of course we get the kind of obligatory Native American white man standoff.
Yeah,
where this John Singing Rock doesn't want to help him because he's like, hey, white man, I owe you no favors.
Yeah, didn't he
took
say
all my land?
Yeah, and didn't he say like, well, would you help me or something?
Yeah, and Harry's like, well, actually, no, I'm just, you got a point there, bud. I don't disagree with you. So he kind of just walks off, and John's like, okay, I'll do it for this amount of money.
Yeah, it was like $100,000 for an education fund and tobacco because he was running low.
Yeah, exactly. So he agrees to help, and this is where we get into the really fun part of the movie.
Yeah, and it's funny, if you've watched at this point, you can almost say, like, all right, I get this, I see where it's going, but you really don't know where this is going at this point.
No, so they all go back, and this is the most I work in a hospital. This is the most lax security hospital I've ever seen in my life, because they're just letting people in and out. At one point, John Singing Rock goes in with full surgical scrubs and everything on. And then he's like, screw this. These aren't comfortable. He just starts taking stuff off. I mean, they're like, whatever. Hey, who are you? Yeah, go on in. The lady with the tumor on the back? Yeah, go on in.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, we'll let you work on her. Yeah, bring your bag of whatever in here. And,
bring your friends.
Yeah.
You got any ideas? Because we're stumped. We don't know what else to do. So they assemble in this room, and then John starts laying out a magical circle around the bed. Which,
did you notice, he's so concerned of it not being like smudged or anything or having to go through it, yet he doesn't even make a complete circle. He kind of just goes to the wall.
He stopped at the wall, and I remember thinking, does the wall count as part of the circle?
I know. I said this is going to be the downfall. He's going to forget that he didn't connect it. That's like...
But so anyway, I don't know, Brian, you take this part, because this is
yeah, so and then actually, I got to tell you, it gets so many things happen so fast in here, and I think there's two orderlies that look exactly the same, so that didn't help. Those two guys kind of confused me because each one of them was in the room at one point. But so he makes the circle, and he starts doing somewhat like almost like an exorcism, I guess would be the best way to describe this. But it's funny. It's pretty simple, and he made it sound like this was going to be the hardest thing to do, and yet it pretty much involves making a little half circle on the floor, which he claims is a circle, and then starts tapping these little sticks together. And
it reminded me of that thing in Karate Kid 2.
Oh yeah, the drum.
The drum thing. That's what it reminded me of, but it was like 2 stick rattle things.
Yeah, or like the rhythm sticks from back in kindergarten. We used to have those 2 little sticks you'd rub together and tap. And
yeah.
So and by this time we might say that this tumor is now the size of a small golf cart on her back. And this poor Susan Strasberg, I got to tell you, she should deserve an award for this. I mean, half this movie she's laying face down with a giant prosthetic on her back.
Yeah, but she was the best screamer.
Oh, she was.
Like when she screamed, I got a little like, ugh. Like it was super creepy. Like hats off to her for her screaming.
And see, and that shows there was a missed opportunity to have her on a roller coaster in the movie Roller Coaster. Which
there you go. Yeah,
let's see,
she's been a great screamer.
Hashtag missed opportunities right there. Susan Strasberg. So yeah, so they decide I guess he decides he's going to try and vanquish this back because the whole theory is they only can stop this by another Indian medicine man pushing back the spirit. And as you can imagine, it doesn't go very well. And this, the Manitou starts to come out, and I believe it starts with like this little kind of like Voldemort hand coming out.
Yeah, so they obviously have some like latex on her back or something.
Yeah.
There's a person pushing up through it. But anyway, so out of her back pops this, and I'm going to be politically correct, a Native American little person.
Yeah. Because, and I thought he was going to, I have to say, I thought he was going to grow bigger. I thought that was just for the first, to get him out. I was like, okay, he's going to be small now, and he's going to grow in front of us. But no, he stayed that way.
Yeah, he's an actual little person, and he's got this this Indian, like full-size Indian head, well, real like one eye is like cocked to the side or something.
Yeah, it was creepy.
So weird. It was super creepy.
Yeah,
And I was just laughing because like this movie, gosh, you could get in so much trouble.
yeah, and he's like, and he's sitting there at one point. He just gets out, and I part of me is thinking, oh, he's gonna start going after them, but he pretty much just does it by controlling other spirits, and the funny thing is there's a theme running, and they keep basically a major foreshadow throughout this thing. They keep saying, why don't you call the police? And John Singing Rocks, no, you can't, because he can control, each machine or technology has a Manitou in it, so he could use it against you, and the guns will be shooting themselves, shooting the police themselves. So it all had to be done with magic, and I guess so he starts launching, the Manitou starts launching these attacks on them. One of them is, I guess, it's some kind of tiger or something. It's like a Patronus. It looks like a Patronus. It really is what it looks like.
There's one point he summons a lizard demon.
Oh, right. The lizard comes first.
I could see where they, like, I just imagine on the script, they're like, okay, we're going to need a gigantic lizard demon. And at this point, the budgets had to be running out.
Yeah.
Because they superimpose, and you could tell it's a guy in a suit, like a lizard suit. Like, you tell it's a guy.
Yeah, it's a Godzilla kind of a thing.
It's like a guy, yeah, it's like a guy in a costume. Like, the only thing that was missing was a zipper. But it's like superimposed, half transparent, and it comes out, and it bites the doctor on the hand.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which I thought was funny. I was like, just give him a little nip.
Yeah, like I said, this guy just, his fate is horrendous. It keeps getting worse for this poor doctor.
Yeah, not only does he slit his wrist, now the lizard's biting his hand. I mean, that hand's going to be worthless by the end of this movie.
And he's a specialist, a surgeon specialist too, which is kind of funny. And I don't know what hospital they're at, but I guess San Francisco at the time really had no emergency surgeries, because the guy goes, he quotes, don't worry, we cleared the floor. It's a surgery floor, so you're the only ones on it.
Yeah, I was like, where is this hospital?
Yeah.
Although, because I should have known from the security that this thing's probably not too busy.
Yeah, it's probably that hospital that you don't really want to go to unless you...
Yeah.
Even though they had supposedly the high-tech computers, but we'll get to that, obviously, in a little bit. So I think then the next, the Patronus or whatever he sends at him is I guess the tiger or something? It's...
Yeah, some kind of cat thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and apparently John Singing Rock knows all the names of these things. He knows as they're coming, what they are,
So refresh my memory. So after and the whole time he's not leaving the circle.
No. Yeah, they can't go through the circle. He's just sitting there, creepy.
And there's one point
small Indian guy.
There was a point where one of the orderlies or whatever got smashed into the wall. That's how they first knew this thing was out there, and there's blood everywhere. There's a dead body in the room.
Right, and what they said is he said his whole body was covered in blood, and they said it's because he used some kind of spell that pulls the skin off the body.
Yeah. So what did they do? So they got this carnage-laden room. The poor woman's still in there alive. She's still alive. It didn't kill her.
Right, and yet the circle is perfectly non-smudged still with all this going on.
The circle's not smudged. There's body in there. There's blood all over the wall. And so they have this guard orderly guy just like napping like 3 feet from the circle.
Right. Was that and he looks like the other orderly too. That's what was confusing me. But the thing is, would you want to do that? Would you be just reading a book? I'd be there with like something in my hand in attack position every second of the way.
Yeah. I mean, I want to set this up. There's a dead body. There's blood all over the walls. There's a naked little person, Indian medicine man, demon thing inside of a circle. And the orderly is literally 5 feet from the door, sitting in a chair napping.
Yeah, which...
Like he was waiting on, a dentist appointment or something.
Yeah, and what? Yeah, and where is like the rest of the group just goes out in the waiting room as if nothing's wrong. And then what was the scene where poor Tony Curtis, I guess, goes to get... I guess he's all nervous, so the nurse tries to give him some Alka-Seltzer or something that doesn't work. What is that?
I did not understand. I'm glad you picked up on that. I did not understand that.
No, what was that? It looked like Alka-Seltzer that didn't fizzle. I was like, okay, so and then he's like, I always need 2 glasses. It was like the weirdest scene ever. Why was that in there? It was I don't get it. And the best is the nurse is just like, well, I guess this isn't your day. I mean, the poor guy is losing his his girlfriend's in there trapped by some Indian spirit.
Oh my god!
All his, he's got which guy has almost no chance to survive this, and she just callously says, "Oh yeah, I guess it's not your day. Sorry, you can't have your Alka-Seltzer." I mean, what the?
And she knows good and well there's a dead body in there, and like everybody's in on this.
Yeah,
and they just don't care. And you're right, it was so weird. I was like, why did he? I was like, okay, he's going to ask for 2 glasses of water because he needs one of the glasses of water for the medicine man.
Right.
He doesn't want to
That's
give
what I
up.
thought. I thought he was being nice. I'm like, oh, he's a nice guy. He's thinking of everyone else. No, he just...
Or he needs it for one of the rituals, but he doesn't want to let on what they're doing in there or something. But it doesn't come to anything. He literally asks for 2 glasses of water. The Alka-Seltzer doesn't work. She's like, just wasn't your day, bub.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, why? Why is that in there?
And it was bizarre.
Well,
yeah.
And the whole time it's funny because I guess they mention that they figure that he's bringing this Miskomachus, which is with the names in this thing. I don't know what they did, if they just took a Scrabble board and threw letters on the table. I was, all right, that'll work. But so they take this and I love how Tony Curtis can never get the name right. He's called him Mixmaster because he just gives up on trying to get the name of this guy at this point. But it is, he's having a bad day, so why would he? Right, but I guess at one point they hear something, and they go in and they see John Singing Rock. His face is all cut. I guess he got attacked by something in there, which they don't show because obviously the budget was really getting thin at this point.
Yes.
So, and then they go out, and then is that where they hear the scream? And they go run in, and then all of a sudden the room is now turned to ice. The whole hallway and the room are all like an ice cave.
So now. I can't hardly talk because I'm laughing so hard.
And we are not making this up. Trust me.
No, we're not making this up. So he goes in, the hallway's like turned to ice, and that bitchy receptionist, with the Alka-Seltzer lady, she's completely frozen, which was actually kind of cool because she had like her hand up, like to show that she was frozen.
Yeah, and then then I guess something explodes and her head goes flying off, which was awesome.
Well, that was what exploded was a typewriter.
Oh, that's how did I forget?
What happens is the Manitou, like I guess he's broken the circle at this point.
Oh, right, he was moving it. He moved it.
He got out.
Yeah.
So the Manitou's gotten out now. So now Tony Curtis and the Manitou are facing off. So thinking fast, he grabs a typewriter and throws it, and the typewriter explodes like a bomb.
That's right. And he was proud of that, too. He was so proud that he thought to throw a typewriter at an ancient Indian god that can't be stopped, but the typewriter should do it.
It must have been a Samsung Galaxy typewriter, because it just exploded, and this poor woman's head goes flying off.
See, ahead of their time. They knew. They're so far ahead in this movie. They need to re-release it globally now that it's, it'll sell now, Right? So I guess after that, they end up going into the doctor's office when they're talking about, they foreshadowed this earlier when the doctor's in his office. There's one of the biggest computers you've ever seen behind him. One of those old school things that's just built into his bookshelf. And
like a whole room size.
Yeah, and it's funny when they showed that, I'm like, that's going to come up later. Somehow. It's such a foreshadowing. So I guess they're in the room, and next thing you know, the room just starts to collapse around them. Kind of like...
this was great.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great effect. It reminded me of the trash compactor scene or something in Star Wars where...
Yeah, because it looked like they had built a set where the walls could actually move and pass in front of each other. So when this thing is moving, like almost like an earthquake, the walls were literally like coming in front of each other. It's hard to explain. It was a really, really cool effect. I really liked it.
And they probably did some of it the way they did that earthquake movie from Universal, with a little bit of camera motion and practical effects, and the room was probably on some kind of tilting system. But I'll tell you, it worked, and it was a great effect. It was actually a really, really cool sequence.
Yeah, the idea behind the computer and all this before this happens is that if every machine has a Manitou, then we can, I guess I didn't really understand because I'm an IT guy, So, but I didn't understand their IT, which was harness all the power of all the computing in this hospital. Which today, all you'd have to do is throw an iPhone at him; he'd be fine.
Right.
He'd be done. But anyway, they had to get every computer in the hospital, and direct it towards the Manitou. That's the working plan we have at this point.
Right, and of course, John Singing Rock, he comes back to his butt. They could use it against us. And Tony Curtis is like, well, what else are we going to do at this point? You just said we're lost. We might as well try something.
And we're all out of typewriters.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Roddy Piper should have done that scene, right? But
so anyway.
Yeah, so they walk up after they get out of that. The room just miraculously stops shaking and all that, and it's okay again. So they go and try, I guess they're going to set a time in about 5 minutes. They're going to go and he's going to flip the switch, and every computer is going to be turned on in the whole hospital, and John Singing Rock is going to channel that and send it at the Manitou. And so they walk up back through the ice cave and inexplicably open the door, and they're somehow in the Twilight Zone.
They're literally in outer space.
Yeah, but didn't it remind you of the Twilight Zone, like with the door opening?
Yeah, the door opens, and now to be fair, they said that he can create illusions,
right?
So we have to assume that this is not actually real outer space they're in. He's conjuring up an illusion that they're in outer space.
Yeah, and I think he even says it. I think John Singing Rock calls it out, and he goes, "This is just an illusion. You're not really in space, you know."
Yeah, obviously, because you're still breathing.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And the funniest thing is, in this room in space, literally them, Susan Strasberg's laying face down on the bed still, and the Manitou again, just all sitting there.
I thought it was so funny because she's still at, like, why did he put her in the bed, like, in there with him? Like,
yeah,
what was the point of that?
Yeah, well, it's obviously, as we'll see, it's a typical villain setting up the fatal flaw at some level.
Yes, and anyway, so behind the Manitou is this other, like, I guess we're supposed to believe it's some kind of godlike interdimensional being.
Yeah, was that? Well, they mentioned there was another name, like a Giffen Manitou or something. They had another name for some other Manitou. They're just dropping the Manitou. I think that was to sell action figures, in all honesty, because they just named other Manitous in this thing. And yeah, Gitche Manitou, that's what it was. I wrote it down, and they said it was a supreme being, kind of similar to Jesus. So why not bring in religion into this movie? Of course, now they've got everything else. And
it looks sort of like a nebula or something. It's just a color, spots of color,
right?
In outer space.
And actually, it's funny. You know what it reminded me of? Remember the opening to Superman: The Motion Picture when they're traveling to Krypton?
Yeah,
that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
It looked like they ripped that off.
Yeah,
but not
exactly
as good.
What it looked like. Yeah.
So I guess John Singing Rock is trying to channel this, and then this is where it just, I think, completely goes off the rails if it hasn't yet. So apparently Susan Strasberg finally wakes up, with all this stuff going on. This finally wakes her up, and they clear the computers and everything's going on. Oh, and the poor doctor that got sliced his hand, got his hand bit, blows up inexplicably, I guess, as he's trying to walk out the door.
He literally blows up.
He just blows up. No, I mean, I guess, his career was over anyway.
He might have had a typewriter in his pocket.
Yeah, he must have, or like one of those little pocket calculators or something. He definitely had something. So he just blows up. But so then they go up there, and Susan Strasberg pops out of the bed. Of course, since this is a horror movie, is completely topless, and starts shooting lasers out of her hand at the Manitou. But if you look, right before this happens, the Manitou gives like this, huh? Look. Like, oh, you're awake. I thought me ripping out of your back would have killed you, but no. So she starts just with this grin on her face.
Yeah, she is awesome in this movie. I can't even begin to describe how awesome it is.
And I was already a fan of her, because even though she had a small role in Roller Coaster, I loved her in that. So to me, I was just she sells it. She's just,
yeah, dude. She is blasting him like a Power Ranger. I mean, just
yeah. And I guess the explanation is that the love that Tony Curtis has for her channeled the Manitous in all the computers through her. Did I get that right? Is that what?
That's about. Yeah.
Yeah. So she keeps his loin, but then in a sequence, and at one point, suddenly Which, I gotta tell you, I mean, with all the good effects, this has got to be the worst. Those asteroids that are coming out.
Oh my god, yeah.
I don't know if that she accidentally blew up Alderaan when she shot the laser and at the Manitou.
You could see the budget just nosediving. It's one of those like cartoon graphs of a business that's failing.
Yeah.
It starts at the top and it just jaggedly keeps going down.
Yeah.
That was their budget. You could see it happening throughout the film.
Yeah, because it's just hilarious. I mean, at that point, I think I had to rewatch that. I was really like, I was just like, I can't believe that did that just happen?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like I had to go back because I didn't know if like I missed a sequence where they told her to point her hand. No, she just did it on her own.
No, she was feeling it.
Yeah,
she was feeling the power of love.
I guess. Yeah. So there's a romance message in this movie. There's something for everybody, really.
Yeah, the Huey Lewis song should have just kicked in at that moment.
Oh, that would have been perfect, right? Yeah. Oh, see, another missed opportunity. And I gotta tell you, I think
that song wasn't written at the time, but
no, but we could go back in the remake. That'll be where it goes. And also, there's a hashtag I forgot totally, which we need to have start is hashtag neck fetus because that's what I was kind of referring to in my notes. I kept saying, okay, the neck fetus. Because
yeah. Oh, I can't even talk about this movie because I'm laughing so hard.
But then I think that the most random thing ever. So this movie ends. Everything's happy ending. He's sending John Singing Rock off in his cab and gives him his tobacco and good friends, feel good. And then instead of going to the end credits, it pops up a message saying, "Fact: a boy in Tokyo had a growth that turned into a fetus."
Yeah, it was so random. I was like, it had nothing to do with the movie.
No, why? Why would? And I don't think it was in his neck. It was in his chest or something. But why? Yeah. Why did that have to come in there? I don't understand it.
It was. I mean, I understand that. Oh, there's also, but it's like, are we to believe that this boy in Tokyo grew a little person Indian out of his chest, or
that must have been their way of setting up a sequel possibility at the time?
I don't know.
But what would it be called? Would it be like Mana and then number 2? Like, would that be the logo for it?
Oh, it would have to be. It would have to be.
Or maybe that little Indian guy with giving the 2 fingers like at Ghostbusters. With the hey, here I am. But. Yeah. So yeah.
I can't. This movie is too much.
No, but to me, that's what makes this movie so great. Is that it's got some great scares and great effects, but there's so much enjoyability to this movie.
Yes, it is. As much as we're making fun of it, it is a fun movie. It's highly entertaining. It never drags. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, and actually I saw it. It is available, I believe, to purchase, and I think I might have to add this to my collection.
Yeah, I'm totally getting this one because if you want if your friends are coming over and you just want to have some beers and watch something batshit crazy, this is a top contender.
Right here. Easily. Yeah, I don't think there's many this is just one of those movies that has to be seen. I mean, as funny it is to hear us explain it, it's even because I'm sure we've missed some little other nuances in it that you guys will pick up that it's hilarious. Like, I'm probably going to watch it again just because I had fun talking about it. I'm like, I want to go see that again now.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So anyway, but I hope you guys enjoyed this overview of it. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already because our words cannot do it justice.
No, definitely not. So maybe if this podcast becomes successful enough, maybe we'll do like a special commentary track of us watching it, kind of Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Because that could be fun.
So our trivia question: when this movie premiered, it actually premiered in South Africa. It had a very unusual marketing gimmick. So can you tell me what gimmicky item the invitations to the premiere were printed on for the Manitou?
That is a good one.
That's a good one.
I think that'll be would be a little. It could probably be done by a little bit of research, but try not to do IMDb because obviously that's the easiest way. But
yeah, it ruins all the fun. So anyway, let's. We thank you guys for joining us, and We would love to hear from you on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/civilgore.
So if you notice on the Facebook page, we'll try and share a lot of articles about some cool horror things. I linked up the trailer for Castle Rock that's going to be on Hulu, which is a Stephen King TV show, which looks amazing. And I also put up a really cool adult coloring book on there. I don't know if you've seen those. It's a new craze, it seems like. And there's a really cool one featuring some horror icons. So Tim and I saw that, and we were definitely going to be buying that, I believe.
So you can also check us out on Twitter. We're at CivilGorePod. We'd love to hear from you there. And if you could, give us a review on iTunes. That helps our ratings and brings our listener count up. So we'd really appreciate it if you just give us a shout there and tell us what you think of the show.
Yeah, and if you have any, we've already seen some on the Facebook page. If you have any suggestions of any movies you want us to talk about, feel free to definitely send a message on the Facebook page or Twitter or any other way to get in touch with us, because we're, as you can tell, we're not really going on any sort of format. I mean, we went from Halloween to Manitou. Who knows what's next week? I know a lot of people have been requesting It, especially with the remake coming out. So that's probably going to be something that we'll probably take a look at in the next couple of weeks. But if you have any other ideas, feel free to share them with us.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Take it easy, guys.
Estradim, icona purista, enora, obtus.